Before we dive into the drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss the next jaw-dropping video. The cafe was buzzing with soft chatter, clinking cups, and the comforting hiss of steamed milk. It was a Saturday morning, and for most people, it meant leisure, laughter, and light conversations. But for Sarah, seated near the window with her laptop open and her focus sharp, it was more than just coffee. It was her moment of peace before preparing for her big presentation on Monday. And that was when Karen entered. The door swung open with unnecessary force, the small bell overhead trembling as if startled. Karen strutted inside, sunglasses perched high, a scarf dramatically tossed over her shoulder, and an aura that demanded attention. Some customers looked up briefly, then returned to their pastries. But Karen wasn't satisfied with glances. She wanted the room. Her eyes locked onto the only empty table left, directly beside Sarah's. As she approached, her heel caught slightly on the rug, but she quickly disguised the stumble with a glare, as if daring anyone to mention it. The barista, a young man named Tom, greeted warmly. "Good morning. What can I get for you today?" Karen removed her sunglasses with a flourish. "First of all, let me say, the lighting in here is absolutely atrocious. And second, don't even think about rushing me. I need time to review this menu." She said the word menu like it was beneath her. Tom gave a polite nod and stepped aside. Sarah, meanwhile, tried to stay immersed in her slides, though her ears caught every word. She knew the type. Within minutes, Karen's voice rose above the cozy hum of the cafe. "Excuse me, I specifically asked for almond milk. This is not almond milk. Do you know what happens when people drink dairy who can't have dairy?" She waved the cup dangerously close to Tom's shirt. Tom stammered, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I double-checked. It is almond milk." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Are you calling me a liar?" Heads began turning. Customers exchanged uneasy glances. The cafe's warmth shifted to tension. Sarah sighed, tapping her pen nervously on the notebook beside her laptop. She could already feel her quiet morning unraveling. Karen wasn't just dissatisfied. She was orchestrating a scene, a drama meant to center her as the star. Her voice climbed higher with every sentence, painting herself as the victim of unforgivable incompetence. And yet, what Karen didn't realize was that her performance had just found its most unwilling co-star, Sarah. Because the next words Karen hurled across the cafe weren't at Tom, they were aimed directly at her. "You there," Karen snapped, pointing toward Sarah's table. "You've been glaring at me this whole time, haven't you?" Sarah froze, caught off guard. The entire cafe seemed to hold its breath. In that instant, the spark of drama Karen so desperately craved ignited. But she had no idea the fire she had lit would eventually consume her. The room grew still. Sarah hadn't even realized she'd been staring, if she had at all. In truth, she was lost in thought, rehearsing her pitch silently, her eyes drifting without focus. But Karen had decided otherwise, and in Karen's world, perception was reality. "I wasn't glaring," Sarah replied carefully, her voice calm but firm. "I was working." She gestured toward her open laptop, its screen full of charts and bullet points. Karen scoffed, hands on her hips. "Don't try to play innocent. I can feel judgment when it's directed at me. And you, yes, you, have been judging me since I walked in." The customers murmured quietly. Some smirked, some shook their heads, while others leaned in, sensing that something bigger was about to unfold. Tom, the barista, tried to diffuse it. "Ma'am, please, let's not involve other guests. If there's an issue, I'm happy to—" But Karen cut him off, raising her voice. "Of course you'd defend her. You're both against me. Isn't that right?" Sarah could see what was happening. Karen wasn't searching for a resolution. She was building a narrative where she was the victim, persecuted by incompetence and strangers alike. Sarah's natural instinct was to retreat. She wasn't a fan of conflict, and being the center of a public spectacle was the last thing she wanted. Yet she noticed the barista's shaking hands, the way his smile faltered, the tension in his shoulders. He was barely holding it together, and Karen was relentless. Sarah closed her laptop slowly and looked Karen in the eye. I don't think anyone is against you, she said, her tone measured. But maybe shouting at people isn't the best way to solve things. The cafe let out a collective gasp. Some even chuckled softly. Sarah had just crossed the invisible line. Standing up to Karen meant stepping into the battlefield. Karen's eyes blazed. Excuse me? Who do you think you are, lecturing me? You don't know what I've been through. You sit there with your perfect little laptop, pretending you're better than everyone else. Sarah stayed steady. I'm not pretending to be better. I just want to enjoy my morning, like everyone else here. That includes you. For a moment, Karen faltered. The words hung in the air, piercing through her theatrics. But instead of backing down, Karen doubled down. She turned to the audience, the customers. Do you hear this? She's attacking me for simply asking for decent service. Yet, in that moment, the audience wasn't siding with her. Sarah could feel it, the tide of the room shifting ever so slightly. People were no longer uncomfortable onlookers. They were waiting, watching, wondering who would win this brewing storm. And Sarah, against her better judgment, realized she was no longer just a bystander. She was a participant. The silence that followed Karen's declaration was thick, like a curtain pulled over the cafe. For a split second, Sarah wondered if anyone might actually rally to Karen's side. After all, Karen's voice dripped with practiced outrage, the kind that could sway someone uncertain. But then a laugh slipped from the back corner. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut through the tension. A man sipping his cappuccino shook his head and muttered just loudly enough, "Classic." Karen whipped around. "What did you say?" The man didn't flinch. "I said, classic. You're putting on a show and everyone here knows it." A ripple of agreement passed through the room. Someone clapped sarcastically. Another customer whispered to her friend, "Every cafe's got one." Karen's face flushed crimson. Her authority, once unchallenged, was cracking in real time. But she refused to back down. "You're all just jealous. Jealous that I'm not afraid to speak up when something's wrong." Sarah seized the moment. She spoke, not loudly, but clearly enough for all to hear. Speaking up is one thing. Turning it into a spectacle is another. You wanted attention, and now you've got it. Karen's lips parted, searching for a comeback. But instead of words, what came was a shaky exhale. The audience wasn't on her side. For the first time, she wasn't holding the spotlight. She was trapped beneath it. Tom, the barista, finally stepped forward, steadier now with the room behind him. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "if you're unhappy with your drink, I'll gladly remake it. But if you keep disrupting everyone else, I'll have to ask you to leave." A collective ooh rippled through the cafe. Sarah noticed Karen's hands trembling as she gripped her cup. The grand performance was slipping. Still, Karen wasn't ready to surrender. She pointed at Sarah again, her voice cracking with frustration. "This is her fault. If she hadn't started glaring, none of this would have happened." Sarah kept her composure. "Or maybe," she replied, "this happened because you wanted it to. You created the drama." For the first time, the room applauded. Not in mockery, but in solidarity. The sound startled Karen, whose eyes darted desperately across the crowd. She had wanted attention, but not like this. Her voice faltered, weaker now. You don't understand. I just wanted—" But the words didn't land. The audience had turned. The drama she tried to control was spiraling beyond her grasp. And Sarah, unwilling or not, had become the anchor everyone looked to for balance. The stage Karen built was crumbling, and the fall was only beginning. Karen's hand trembled as she clutched the cup tighter, her knuckles white against the cardboard sleeve. The spotlight she craved had become unbearable heat, and she was beginning to wilt under it. Yet pride was a powerful chain. It wouldn't let her step back easily. She straightened her scarf with a sharp tug and forced her voice steady. "You're all making a mistake," she declared, scanning the room with desperate eyes. "This girl," she jabbed a finger toward Sarah, "provoked me. She thinks she's smarter, calmer, better. But she's not. She's just hiding behind politeness." Sarah met Karen's eyes without blinking. "And you're hiding behind drama." The cafe erupted in murmurs again, the customers leaning closer, hungry for every word. Tom, standing behind the counter, looked ready to step in, but it was clear the crowd no longer needed him. They were invested, participants in a story unfolding before them. Karen tried to laugh it off, though the sound came out hollow. "You're all enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me get ganged up on like some spectacle." The man in the corner who had first spoken up replied coolly, "You made it a spectacle." Others nodded, murmuring agreement. The walls were closing in, the audience unanimous now. Karen's kingdom of control had turned into a courtroom, and she was the defendant. Sarah spoke again, her voice even but powerful. "You came in here looking for conflict, but not everyone's going to play the role you cast for them." Those words landed like a gavel. Karen's expression flickered, anger, then defiance, then, for the briefest second, fear. She slammed her drink down on Sarah's table. The coffee sloshed dangerously close to the laptop, drawing a sharp gasp from the crowd. "You think you've won?" Karen hissed. "You haven't seen the last of me." Sarah calmly moved her laptop away, unshaken. "It's not about winning. It's about respect. And right now, you've lost yours." That sentence hit harder than any shout could. The cafe broke into quiet applause, not roaring or mocking, but firm. A collective decision. Karen's face reddened deeper than ever. Tom finally stepped forward, his voice resolute. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The sound of those words was final. Karen opened her mouth as if to argue, but nothing came. The audience had turned its verdict. She was done. For a long moment, she stood frozen, her pride warring with the reality before her. Then slowly, stiffly, she gathered her bag, adjusted her scarf, and turned toward the door. Every eye followed, every breath held. Karen had entered like a queen demanding loyalty, yet she was leaving like an actor whose performance had collapsed mid-scene. The cafe door shut with a sharp click, and the bell above it jingled faintly, almost like a sigh of relief. Karen was gone, leaving behind an echo of tension that quickly dissolved into murmurs and laughter. It felt as though the entire room had exhaled at once, as though they had collectively survived a storm. Sarah sat still for a moment, her laptop closed, her heart beating faster than she cared to admit. She hadn't come here to fight battles. She had wanted peace, a few quiet hours, and maybe a refill of coffee. Yet somehow, she had become the center of resistance against a whirlwind of chaos. Tom approached her table, his hands no longer shaking. "Thank you," he said earnestly. "I didn't know how to handle that." You really stood up." Sarah smiled softly, shaking her head. "I wasn't trying to stand up. I just couldn't watch her tear you down like that." The man from the corner raised his cup in salute. "You did more than that. You destroyed her. People like that thrive when no one challenges them. You gave the rest of us the courage to stop pretending we didn't see it." A ripple of agreement passed through the cafe, a chorus of nods and smiles. For the first time that morning, the atmosphere wasn't tense or weary. It was warm, united. Strangers who had been silent patrons were now connected by the shared memory of what had just happened. Sarah felt a flush of embarrassment but also pride. She wasn't a hero, not in the traditional sense, but she had refused to be silenced or pushed into a corner. And that, it seemed, had made all the difference. As she reopened her laptop, Tom gently set down a fresh cup beside her. "On the house," he said with a grin. "This one's definitely almond milk." The room laughed, the tension fully broken now. Sarah chuckled too, the sound light and unguarded. The cafe was alive again, its hum restored, but something lingered beneath it. A sense that they had all witnessed something rare. Not just drama, but justice. Meanwhile, outside, Karen walked briskly down the street. Her scarf tugged tight against the wind. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but not the truth she felt inside. For the first time in a long while, she hadn't won. Her drama had spiraled beyond her control, and the role she had tried to play, victim, star, queen, had shattered under the weight of truth. Inside, Sarah sipped her coffee, returning to her work. Yet in the corner of her mind, she couldn't help but think, sometimes standing up isn't about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about refusing to let someone else's chaos define your day. And in that cafe, Karen had tried to cause drama. but she had been destroyed instead. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more unbelievable showdowns and unforgettable moments. Your next favorite video is just one click away.